Welcome to Screen Profits, where we dive deep into the numbers, stories, and legacies behind some of the biggest box office hits and most fan-favorite movies ever made. Today we're tackling a true cinematic giant, Avengers: Endgame. For movie lovers, film enthusiasts, and anyone who follows Hollywood hits, this film isn't just a blockbuster movie. It's the definition of a must-watch movie that turned into one of the greatest box office hits of all time. When Avengers: Endgame hit theaters, it wasn't just another release on the calendar of new movie releases, or a title competing with other trending movies. It became a cultural event, the kind of film that pulled in audience reactions, sparked endless movie reviews and reactions, and inspired movie fan theories that kept cinema fans talking for months. From emotional goodbyes to viral movie moments, Marvel's epic created some of the most iconic movie scenes that quickly turned into movie memes, viral movie clips, and discussions that still live on in movie spoilers discussion threads and movie breakdowns across YouTube. But what makes Endgame stand out isn't just the spectacle. It's how it connected with generations. For younger fans, it was the pinnacle of popular movies right now, the ultimate payoff after years of build-up. For others, it carried a sense of movie nostalgia, reminding us of classic movies, old movies, and timeless movies that gave us our first taste of superheroes on screen. In fact, it has already started to join the ranks of all-time great movies, cult classics, and rewatchable movies, the kind that stay in the conversation long after the credits roll. At Screen Profits, our focus isn't just on the storytelling, but also the business behind it. Avengers: Endgame shattered records, redefining what a blockbuster movie can achieve in terms of revenue, and proving just how powerful fan engagement with movies really is. In today's breakdown, we'll unpack not only the financial side, from budget to profit margins, but also why this film sits at the top of so many movie ranking lists, and how it cemented itself as a genre-defining classic in the world of superhero cinema. So, whether you're a Marvel diehard, a casual fan who loves movie explain videos, or just someone who enjoys the balance between upcoming movies and nostalgic films, this episode is for you. Sit back because we're about to explore the numbers, the hype, and the legacy of Avengers: Endgame, one of the most powerful films ever to hit the big screen. In the classic hit Avengers: Endgame, starring Robert Downey Jr., Tony Stark/Iron Man, and directed by Anthony Russo and Joe Russo, best known for Captain America, The Winter Soldier, Captain America, Civil War, and Avengers: Infinity War, audiences experienced a landmark release from Marvel Studios under Disney. Even years later, Avengers: Endgame is still compared to other major films and franchises such as Joker from Warner Bros., Spider-Man, No Way Home from Sony, Avatar, The Way of Water from 20th Century Studios/Disney, and Star Wars. The Rise of Skywalker from Lucasfilm/Disney, showing its lasting impact on global cinema and streaming platforms like Netflix, Disney+, HBO Max, Amazon Prime Video, and Apple TV+. This is the definitive blockbuster, a superhero epic with sci-fi hit scale, and for anyone building a slate or a portfolio, Avengers: Endgame is a case study in box office performance, monetization strategy, and long-tail return on investment. That still reads like a must-watch 2025 playbook. Let's anchor the conversation in hard figures. Released in April 2019 with a 181-minute runtime, Avengers: Endgame amassed approximately $2.799 billion worldwide, including about $858 million domestic and roughly $1.94 billion from international box office. Opening weekend alone delivered about $357 million domestic and a staggering $1.22 billion global, a testament to demand intensity, premium formats, and high advertising spend efficiency. In context, Joker from Warner Bros. Reached about $1.074 billion on a far lower cost base. The Dark Knight cleared roughly $1.006 billion. Aquaman swam to about $1.148 billion, and Spider-Man: No Way Home rose to about $1.916 billion for Sony, even against juggernauts like Avatar, The Way of Water at roughly $2.32 billion, and franchise peers like Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker at about $1.074 billion. Avengers: Endgame sits at the summit of modern studio tentpoles, validating its superior profit margins potential through scale, urgency, and event status. Now to the cost side, where opportunity meets financial risk. Industry reporting places the production budget of Avengers Endgame in the vicinity of $350 to $400 million, reflecting vast ensembles, heavy VFX, and extended schedules. Layer in global P&A, the marketing and distribution outlay, widely estimated in the low to mid-nine figures, and your all-in negative cost plausibly sits in the $550 to $600 million range before talent participation, residuals, and interest. Georgia's production incentive program. Up to a 30% transferable tax credit on qualifying spend. Likely shaved meaningful dollars off the cash cost of production, improving effective operating expenses and modeled profitability metrics. Even at this scale, the film's demand profile signaled favorable projected revenue, high franchise valuation, and a compelling return on investment. Return on investment, proposition for Disney and Marvel Studios. Theatrical economics make the model even clearer. Using standard studio rentals assumptions, Disney typically retains approximately 50 to 55% of domestic gross, about 40% of non-China international, and roughly 25% from China. For Avengers Endgame, that implies modeled domestic rentals near $440 to $470 million on $858 million domestic, approximately $520 million from international territories excluding China, and roughly $155 to $160 million from China's $629 million cum. Aggregated, that suggests theatrical cash returns to the studio in the ballpark of $1.1 to $1.2 billion before deducting distribution fees and participations. That scale of theatrical cash flow underpins strong early-phase cumulative income and offers the foundation for premium profit margins once ancillary windows kick in, supporting a resilient monetization strategy and healthy franchise return on investment. Ancillary windows were designed to extend value. Electronic sell-through and physical 4K/Blu-ray, coupled with PVOD windows and television deals, generally contribute low to mid nine-figure revenue for major tentpoles of this magnitude, though exact splits vary by territory and windowing. With Avengers Endgame, the strategic move was streaming rights licensing into the company's own ecosystem on Disney+, converting headline value into subscriber acquisition and churn reduction rather than third-party licensing cash. In an investor lens, that's deferred recognition but amplified lifetime value. The film functions as a magnet that raises engagement for the entire MCU catalog, improving platform return on equity, portfolio shareholder value, and the slate's cumulative earnings without sacrificing the premium positioning established by the theatrical release revenue. The consumer products dimension was equally significant. For an IP concentration like Avengers Endgame, character-led merchandising sales across apparel, toys, collectibles, and publishing translate into nine-figure annual royalty income for the rights holder when measured at wholesale, with retail sales commonly modeled in the billions across the MCU umbrella.
Attributing an exact figure to a single title is complex. The synergistic lift from Robert Downey Jr., Tony Stark/Iron Man, Chris Evans, Steve Rogers/Captain America, Chris Hemsworth, Thor, Scarlett Johansson, Natasha Romanoff/Black Widow, Mark Ruffalo, Bruce Banner/Hulk, Brie Larson, Carol Danvers/Captain Marvel, Paul Rudd, Scott Lang/Ant-Man, Jeremy Renner, Clint Barton/Hawkeye, and Josh Brolin, Thanos, creates a durable halo that supports robust franchise valuation, widens the merch addressable market, and boosts long-term projected revenue, fortifying slate-level profit margins. Star compensation is typically the highest profile line item after production budget and VFX. Public trade coverage has long suggested actors' salaries for top MCU talent incorporate eight-figure upfronts plus back-end participation on outsized hits. For Avengers Endgame, industry chatter placed Robert Downey Jr., Tony Stark/Iron Man, in the upper echelons with a substantial base and performance-linked upside, while ensemble counterparts realized sizable but comparatively lower packages. As a modeling note, above-the-line costs on an event film like this can easily crest into nine figures combined, and yet these investments expand demand, increase box office performance, and lift conversion across ancillary channels. Irrational trade in a franchise where profitability metrics and return on investment depend on cultural heat and repeat viewings. Competition contextualizes just how formidable Avengers: Endgame was. Joker from Warner Brothers reportedly cost around $55 to $70 million and grossed about $1.074 billion, an extraordinary low-cost, high-margin outlier. Spider-Man: No Way Home at Sony cost in the low to mid-$200 millions and delivered roughly $1.916 billion with a leaner ensemble. Avatar: The Way of Water, with a multi-$100 million spend, swam to about $2.32 billion, converting global 3D and premium formats into elite profit margins. In each comparative case, we observe the same pattern: mega hits consolidate market attention, rebalance advertising spend efficiency, and convert reach into cumulative earnings. Across these comps, Avengers: Endgame still presents one of the most compelling franchise return on investment outcomes in modern studio history. On the release mechanics, the film's pre-sale engine rewrote records. Avengers: Endgame saw opening weekend admissions estimated in the 90 to 95 million range domestically, based on average ticket prices at the time, with premium formats like IMAX and 3D boosting per-ticket yields, expanding theatrical release revenue, and accelerating payback velocity against operating expenses. In China, Day 1 demand crossed the $100 million threshold in pre-sales and opening day receipts, culminating in roughly $629 million total, crucial for global scale despite lower revenue share. The takeaway for investors is clear: an eventized title with synchronized global marketing and local language dubbing maximizes international box office, feeds early cumulative income, and improves realized profit margins before the ancillary tail even begins. One of the clearest third-party benchmarks came from industry profitability scorecards. Trades analyzing 2019's biggest releases estimated that Avengers: Endgame generated net profits approaching the high 8 figures into the low 9 figures on a per-title basis, with some modeling landing around the $900 million net range after all costs, participations, and post-theatrical revenue, a best-in-class result that undergirds high shareholder value and enviable return on equity for Disney. Individual models vary, but the through line is consistent: when a blockbuster sets global records, the multi-window monetization strategy compounds, and the return on investment can exceed 100% on conservative assumptions and go materially higher on generous ones. Strategically, the move to Disney Plus was not merely a distribution choice, it was a lifetime value bet. By keeping streaming rights licensing in-house, Disney traded one-time license fees for recurring subscription economics, letting Avengers: Endgame operate as a perpetual driver of engagement for the MCU library. Fans who arrived for Avengers: Endgame often stayed for Iron Man, Captain America, The Winter Soldier, Black Panther, roughly $1.346 billion worldwide, and Captain Marvel, about $1.13 billion, deepening the moat around the IP and crystallizing the slate-level monetization strategy that makes franchise return on investment less volatile cycle to cycle. That ecosystem effect boosts cumulative earnings across titles and fiscal periods, enhancing profit margins beyond what a standalone licensing deal could achieve. From a craft and commerce angle, the Russo brothers' orchestration of a massive ensemble made the complex narrative accessible, which supports the data we see in repeat viewings and audience retention. The film leveraged IMAX-friendly framing, large format capture, and meticulous VFX planning to maximize premium uptake, channeling creative choices into financial outcomes. The result is superior advertising spend efficiency. The content sells itself once the cultural moment lands, and a healthier path to sustained box office performance, contributing to the strong projected revenue that investors benchmark against when evaluating similar megaproductions from Warner Brothers, Universal, Paramount, or Sony. It's also worth noting how Avengers: Endgame influenced competitive postures. The scale forced rival studios to recalibrate calendars, protect tentpole corridors, and rethink cross-platform promotion. In that market environment, profit margins are not just a function of revenue, they're a function of timing, format mix, and scarcity. By locking prime dates and deploying the MCU's universe cadence, Marvel Studios and Disney captured outsized share of attention, pushing cumulative income higher and delivering library uplift that magnified franchise valuation far beyond a single release. Even the filming footprint contributed to the financial calculus. George's production infrastructure and incentives improved cost control, while back-to-back scheduling with MCU entries produced economies of scale in departments and vendors. That approach can flatten operating expenses, smooth cash burn, and keep profitability metrics in the green even when headline production budgets run hot. For viewers it reads as seamless world building, for modelers it reads as disciplined monetization strategy that mitigates financial risk. If we zoom out to the cultural dividend, Avengers: Endgame delivered iconic moments that supercharged meme culture and fan engagement across Netflix, Disney+, HBO Max, Amazon Prime Video, and Apple TV Plus discourse-free advertising that turns into paid conversions. That engagement uplift increases ad efficiency, enables premium CPMs across the media ecosystem discussing the film, and ultimately funnels back into superior slate return on investment. Return on investment, stronger profit margins, and higher shareholder value as the MCU continues to drive projected revenue through new phases. So when we say Avengers: Endgame is a cinematic masterpiece and a superhero epic, we're describing more than film craft, we're quantifying a system. With approximately $2.799 billion worldwide, about $858 million domestic, roughly $629 million from China, a modeled production budget near $350 to $400 million, all-in costs likely in the mid-hundreds of millions after P&A, and studio theatrical rentals plausibly in the $1.1 to $1.2 billion range, the numbers justify the narrative. Add 9-figure home and TV ancillaries, ecosystem value on Disney+, and durable merchandising sales and royalty income, and the case for elite franchise return on investment, healthy profit margins, and long horizon cumulative earnings is overwhelming. That's why Avengers: Endgame remains not just a sci-fi hit and a must-watch 2025 touchstone, but also a benchmark for monetization strategy, return on equity, and studio-scale franchise valuation that competitors at Warner Bros., Universal, Paramount, and Sony still measure against. In Avengers: Endgame, the story and the spreadsheet both orbit Robert Downey Jr., Tony Stark/Iron Man, whose arc leads an ensemble cast of blockbuster actors in a superhero action drama with post-apocalyptic cast dynamics that critics and fans describe as a definitive sci-fi hit. Alongside Downey are Chris Evans, Steve Rogers/Captain America, Chris Hemsworth, Thor, Scarlett Johansson, Natasha Romanoff/Black Widow, Mark Ruffalo, Bruce Banner/Hulk, Jeremy Renner, Clint Barton/Hawkeye, Brie Larson, Carol Danvers/Captain Marvel, Paul Rudd, Scott Lang/Ant-Man, and Josh Brolin, Thanos, in commanding supporting roles that complete the MCU's largest screen tapestry. The casting is not just a creative choice by Marvel Studios, it is an economic engine where actors' salaries, cost allocation, and structured compensation packages link directly to opening weekend velocity and lifetime return on investment. Return on investment. With worldwide grosses of about $2.799 billion and domestic of roughly $858 million, the cast straw translates into hard numbers that underpin profitability analysis, revenue estimates, and slate-level franchise valuation for Disney. The fulcrum of this cinematic performance is Robert Downey Jr., Tony Stark/Iron Man, the quintessential reluctant hero whose presence has historically correlated with MCU surges. Based on trade coverage and historical comparisons, analysts often model Downey's combined upside on late-phase Avengers titles in the tens of millions, with some reports suggesting 8-figure upfronts and significant back-end participation. In practical terms, that means actors' salaries for marquee leads can consume a large share of production budget cash while still returning powerful marketing return on investment. Through brand certainty. When a single name can help catalyze a $357 million domestic opening weekend and a $1.22 billion global launch frame, the investor insights are clear. Premium talent raises the ceiling on projected income and justifies premium format surcharges that lift profit margins even after operating expenses and distribution costs. The anchor of resolve in this action drama is Chris Evans, Steve Rogers/Captain America, a dystopian hero whose brand equity compounds across 3 solo films and multiple ensemble appearances. The Evans effect shows up in retention curves and repeat viewing cycles that analysts feed into financial modeling. Conservative models attribute a meaningful portion of awareness lift to top-line talent, which, when layered on a $2.799 billion worldwide outcome, supports robust revenue estimates for ancillary windows. Industry compares often place Evans' steady gravitas alongside Christian Bale's turn in The Dark Knight at Warner Bros., and that comparison matters for investor insights because it implies an enduring franchise persona that reduces volatility and stabilizes long-term profitability across catalog exploitation on Disney+, while earlier Evans titles on Netflix and Amazon Prime Video keep the discovery loop turning. If Evans steadies the ship, Chris Hemsworth, Thor, electrifies it, embodying mythic comedy and tragedy that broaden international appeal. Ragnarok's $855 million global gross set the stage, and in Avengers, Endgame his grief-laced levity amplifies audience segments that drive premium ticketing. From the Ledger's perspective, Marvel's cost allocation to Hemsworth is a deliberate bet on overseas momentum. The combination of star charisma and four-quadrant humor tends to increase conversion in key territories, boosting revenue estimates for IMAX and 3D while supporting higher realized profit margins after exhibitor splits. Compared with peers like Aquaman at Warner Bros. At roughly $1.148 billion worldwide, the Hemsworth-led Thor brand positions the MCU for sustained franchise valuation across phases, reinforcing the logic of rich compensation packages at the top. As the emotional core, Scarlett Johansson, Natasha Romanoff/Black Widow, embodies the fearless survivor archetype, carrying the moral center of the ensemble cast. Johansson's range spans billion-dollar action and prestige drama, and that duality anchors award-winning actors' credibility that marketers convert into trust. Based on estimates and historical comps, Johansson's MCU-era compensation sits in the upper eight figures across projects, a figure that compresses near-term profit margins but strengthens lifetime return on investment. Return on investment, by expanding female-led engagement and improving marketing return on investment. Through authentic fan goodwill. Films like Lucy at $463 million worldwide and Marriage Stories Awards profile keep her portfolio present on Netflix, Amazon Prime, and Disney+, which supports higher catalog throughput and slate content monetization. The grounding intellect of Mark Ruffalo, Bruce Banner/Hulk, adds prestige to the supporting roles, linking a tentpole to award-winning actors' credibility from Spotlight and Foxcatcher. Although VFX costs for Hulk elevate operating expenses, the character's warm wit improves cross-demo appeal and fuels social virality that reduces marginal acquisition costs. For profitability analysis, that means a higher ratio of earned to paid impressions and a better path to projected income in home entertainment and streaming rights value. Analysts who benchmark against Joker at $1.074 billion worldwide note the tonal differences but reach a similar conclusion: celebrated performances heighten cultural stickiness, raising shareholder value through multi-window endurance. With Jeremy Renner, Clint Barton/Hawkeye, Avengers, Endgame taps the survival thriller current running beneath the spectacle. Renner's track record, The Town at about $154 million worldwide, The Bourne Legacy around $276 million demonstrates bankable toughness, which, when fused to the Ronin arc, adds grounded stakes that expand demographics. In budgeting terms, Renner's tiered compensation packages fit the template where mid-elite salaries contribute to star density without overwhelming headline production budget. The downstream Hawkeye series on Disney Plus then converts theatrical awareness into ongoing engagement, a prime example of portfolio monetization strategy that improves long-term profitability beyond the film's own P&L. Momentum accelerates with Brie Larson, Carol Danvers/Captain Marvel, whose solo debut soared to about $1.13 billion worldwide weeks before Avengers: Endgame premiered. That timing mattered. Marvel Studios strategically leveraged Larson's surge to fortify pre-sales, yielding higher revenue estimates and steadying financial modeling for international markets. As an award-winning actor and Oscar winner, Larson brings halo effects that raise marketing return on investment, and even when actors' salaries for recent Oscar winners outpace historical baselines, the trade can be favorable if the brand lift supports superior return on investment. Return on investment, across retention on Disney Plus and merchandise featuring the character. The MCU's comedic heart beats through Paul Rudd, Scott Lang/Ant-Man, whose Ant-Man, $519 million worldwide, and Ant-Man and the Wasp, $622 million worldwide, certify him as a fan-favorite actor with repeat view appeal. Rudd's presence typically correlates with higher family turnout, and in Avengers, Endgame his humor-to-hero balance boosts positive word of mouth that marketers treat as an efficiency multiplier. In plain terms, that dynamic lifts advertising spend efficiency, increases projected income, and justifies mid-elite actor salaries within a stacked ensemble cast. Add Living with Yourself and clueless discovery loops on Netflix and Amazon Prime, and you have a catalog strategy that supports ongoing content monetization and platform shareholder value. The narrative's existential weight rests with Josh Brolin, Thanos, a conflicted villain whose gravitas rivals genre heavyweights. Brolin's dramatic lineage, from No Country for Old Men to Sicario and now Dune, Part 1 near $402 million and Part 2 crossing $700 million globally, sets a standard for antagonists that command attention. In finance terms, a villain with cultural penetration raises premium uptake and increases attach rates for formats with higher margins. Even when rendering Thanos increases operating expenses due to complex VFX, the net effect can be accretive to profit margins once the villain becomes a merchandising icon and a clip library staple on Disney+, which translates into durable projected income and higher franchise valuation. Depth matters, and Avengers, Endgame is rich with supporting roles and breakout performances that create a lattice of value. Don Cheadle, James Rhodes / War Machine, brings prestige visibility. Karen Gillan, Nebula, delivers a genuine breakout performance that accelerates fan empathy. Benedict Cumberbatch, Doctor Strange, ties in a separate branch with Doctor Strange at around $677 million and its sequel near $955 million worldwide. Tom Holland, Peter Parker / Spider-Man, connects to Spider-Man, No Way Home at about $1.916 billion. Chadwick Boseman, T'Challa / Black Panther, anchors a $1.346 billion phenomenon. Zoe Saldana. Gamera, bridges to Avatar's historic $2.92 billion and its sequel's $2.32 billion. Evangeline Lilly, Hope Van Dyne / Wasp, Anthony Mackie, Sam Wilson / Falcon, and Sebastian Stan, Bucky Barnes / Winter Soldier, extend connective tissue to Disney Plus series. Each linkage carries investor insights implications. Cross-title star recognition improves funnel efficiency, bolstering revenue estimates and helping sustain long-term profitability. Casting trivia continues to amplify attention without additional spend. Fans remember the rumored Catherine Langford appearance as an older Morgan Stark in a deleted scene, a micro-story that stoked buzz while the core trailer shattered records with approximately 289 million views in its first 24 hours, a signal of extraordinary demand that analysts plug directly into financial modeling. That level of anticipation compounds marketing return on investment, lowering effective CPMs and enabling Marvel Studios to redeploy media to late-cycle reminders, which improves profit margins before and during opening week while maintaining the ensemble cast spotlight for maximum reach across Netflix, Disney+, Amazon Prime Video, and Max conversation spheres. All of this star gravity rolls up into a budget reality. Based on estimates, projections, and historical comparisons, analysts often model Avengers, Endgame's headline production budget in a $350 to $400 million range, with above-the-line cost allocation to the main ensemble cast plausibly in the low to mid-nine figures. A typical big tent structure might see cast compensation at 20 to 30% of reported production costs, which would imply a modeling range of roughly $80 to $120 million devoted to actor salaries, with flexibility for performance bonuses, back-end and deferred compensation packages. Compared with comparables at Warner Bros. And Universal, from Justice League's high-cost ensemble to the star premiums on The Fate of the Furious, the MCU's approach trades short-term profit margins compression for outsized global reach and superior return on investment. Return on investment, potential. That cast spend does not stand alone, it interacts with distribution costs, global P&A, and escalating VFX. Yet Marvel's cross-title design amortizes the investment. The same faces recur in sequels and series, lifting platform utility on Disney Plus and strengthening content monetization beyond a single film. In a spreadsheet, the outcome is a more stable curve of projected income, less sensitive to one-off swings because the ensemble cast continues to generate watch hours, consumer products interest, and a fertile ground for spin-offs that enhance franchise valuation and studio shareholder value. It is useful to contrast different compensation strategies. Joker achieved extraordinary margins on a $55 to $70 million cost base with a single star's transformational turn, but the ceiling for a non-universe film, while high, differed from a multi-film web like the MCU. Conversely, Avatar, The Way of Water carried very high operating expenses but converted them into premium attendance and resilient legs. Avengers, Endgame synthesizes both worlds, a galaxy of Hollywood stars and blockbuster actors executing long payoff character arcs in a superhero action drama framework that multiplies demand. The data bears it out. $2.799 billion worldwide provides a pool from which studio rentals in the billion-plus zone can emerge, and when you overlay nine-figure ancillaries and platform retention value, the cast's cost becomes a rational catalyst for elite profitability analysis and enduring return on investment. Return on investment. On a per-role basis, estimates and historical comparisons often place top-tier packages for figures like Robert Downey Jr., Tony Stark/Iron Man, in the $50 to $75 million outcome band once Beckoned is accounted for on mega hits, while peers like Chris Evans, Steve Rogers/Captain America, Chris Hemsworth, Thor, and Scarlett Johansson, Natasha Romanoff/Black Widow, have been discussed in the press within eight-figure ranges for late-phase MCU entries. Without asserting confidential terms, the directional lesson for investor insights is simple: high actor salaries can be capital efficient when they secure global enthusiasm, protect premium screen share, and unlock merchandising tie-ins that improve projected income and long-tail long-term profitability. Marvel Studios' casting choices also leverage availability and synergy across platforms. Many pre-MCU films for this ensemble cast rotate on Netflix, Amazon Prime Video, and Max, while the core MCU sits on Disney+. This integrated presence increases cross-sell opportunities and keeps the fan-favorite actors continuously visible. That visibility underpins a repeatable monetization strategy. Theatrical release drives the peak, platform engagement sustains the tail, and consumer products monetize the iconography, all of which elevate franchise valuation and, through scale, enhance return on equity for the parent company. The creative archetypes feed the finance engine. The reluctant hero of Robert Downey Jr., Tony Stark/Iron Man, the dystopian hero of Chris Evans, Steve Rogers/Captain America, the god-on-his-heels action drama of Chris Hemsworth, Thor, the fearless survivor grit of Scarlett Johansson, Natasha Romanoff/Black Widow, the brain and heart equilibrium of Mark Ruffalo, Bruce Banner/Hulk, the wounded vigilante energy of Jeremy Renner, Clint Barton/Hawkeye, the late entry ace of Brie Larson, Captain Marvel, the comedic valve of Paul Rudd, Ant-Man, and the grand conflicted villain of Josh Brolin, Thanos, create distinct demand vectors that analysts fold into financial modeling for territory-by-territory revenue estimates. Those vectors help explain why premium seating, IMAX uptake, and repeat viewing skew higher for the MCU than for many standalone titles, and why the cast's line items, while large, still contribute to stronger realized profit margins after accounting for distribution costs and operating expenses. Even micro-moments have measurable effects. Cameo clusters with award-winning actors and fan-favorite actors spike social chatter and organic lift that produces better marketing return on investment. Per dollar spent. When the first Avengers, Endgame trailer amassed hundreds of millions of views in one day, it validated a thesis: the ensemble cast was the campaign. That validation gave Marvel Studios confidence to steer media pacing, banking on virality and saving budget for closer-to-release bursts, a tactic that improves cash efficiency and protects profit margins while the cast's cinematic performance keeps the conversation hot across Netflix, Disney+, Amazon Prime Video, and Max discourse. In aggregate, the Avengers, Endgame ensemble cast is a textbook example of talent as a financial instrument. The layered compensation packages are significant, but so are the outcomes: $2.799 billion in global box office, billion plus in modeled studio rentals, and nine-figure ancillary stacks before counting the platform retention value on Disney+. When analysts run the full profitability analysis, the cast is not a cost center, it is the lever that turns IP potential into realized return on investment. Return on investment boosts franchise valuation, and sustains long-term profitability through continuous catalog cycling. That is why, for a superhero action drama executed at this scale, the right ensemble cast of Hollywood stars and blockbuster actors is the most dependable line on the balance sheet, the one that converts cultural certainty into quantifiable projected income and enduring shareholder value. In Avengers, Endgame, starring Robert Downey Jr., Tony Stark/Iron Man, and directed by Anthony Russo and Joe Russo under Marvel Studios and Disney, the film opens on a world shattered, a survival journey framed by grief, community, and resolve. The atmosphere leans into post-apocalyptic storytelling with a muted, elegiac tone that briefly echoes a dystopian thriller, then pivots into the MCU's signature uplift through intense plot twists, a suspense-driven narrative, and escalating high-action sequences. Fans followed every beat of this cinematic drama as the story structure shifted from despair to reinvention, and fan theories exploded amid record-breaking viral trailer buzz that pushed the movie toward a must-watch 2025 status for newcomers. As a blockbuster often called a modern cinematic masterpiece, Avengers, Endgame drew comparisons to mythic payoffs like The Dark Knight and Dune at Warner Bros., and the peak spectacle of Star Wars, The Force Awakens from Lucasfilm/Disney, cementing its role in franchise-level storytelling fueled by a gripping narrative and unforgettable scenes that resonated across the MCU. The early stretch plays like a harrowing survival journey, with Chris Evans, Steve Rogers/Captain America, facing a broken world, Scarlett Johansson, Natasha Romanoff/Black Widow, holding the team together, and Chris Hemsworth, Thor, retreating to New Asgard, a slice of grounded world-building that deepens the character development arcs. The swift takedown of Thanos is one of those intense plot twists that reframes the mission and ignites fan theories about time, sacrifice, and legacy. As the suspense-driven narrative jumps 5 years, the film becomes a meditation on second chances, a cinematic drama that still primes the fuse for high-action sequences fans expect. Compared with the stealth craft of Mission Impossible, Fallout at Paramount, or the grim propulsion of Joker at Warner Bros., Avengers, Endgame leans into communal hope, a blockbuster comparison that highlights the MCU's distinctive franchise storytelling voice while amplifying its cinematic universe expansion. The midsection's time heist showcases a precision story structure, each detour revisits prior films, expanding world-building while weaving in alternative endings fans imagined during viral trailer buzz. Cameos and callbacks reward long-term investment in the MCU, and critics note how character development arcs for Mark Ruffalo, Bruce Banner/Hulk, Jeremy Renner, Clint Barton/Hawkeye, and Brie Larson, Carol Danvers/Captain Marvel, turn the mission into an emotional relay. Audiences debated deleted scenes and post-credit scenes expectations, and industry chatter predicted those deleted scenes and concept variations might surface on streaming extras via Disney+, Netflix, or HBO Max, strengthening fan theories and viral storytelling loops. By the time the portals open, the film hits its gripping narrative apex, a tapestry of unforgettable scenes, an orchestration of high-action sequences, and a triumphant blockbuster wave that aligns with the best of franchise-level storytelling and cements Avengers, Endgame as a must-watch 2025 pillar. That scale has measurable consequences, and, based on historical comparisons, the plot's complexity and CGI density imply significant production spending and a premium cost per scene during the final battle. Industry estimates place the production spending in the $350 to $400 million range, which, combined with global P&A, anchors a rigorous break-even analysis. The world-shaping spectacle aligns with elite box office potential, and the realized outcome, about $2.799 billion worldwide, feeds strong profitability metrics and studio-level cumulative revenue. For analysts modeling budget efficiency, the film's act design somber first act, ensemble caper, then total war finale concentrates spend where it converts most, improving perceived return on investment. Return on investment, and lifting equity returns through premium formats and international breadth. In this reading, Avengers, Endgame exemplifies content engineered for shareholder value through carefully staged scale. Story strategy drives commercial resilience. Cliffhangers and callbacks catalyze fan theories and viral trailer buzz, and that organic heat improves advertising spend efficiency, lowering the cost to reach incremental viewers. As a result, investor forecasts for projected income can lean bullish, not only for theatrical but for revenue diversification across ancillary revenue streams. The finale's iconography fuels merchandising profitability, while platform exclusivity under Disney Plus shapes streaming revenue projections and a durable content monetization arc post-release, the emotionally charged character development arcs of Robert Downey Jr., Tony Stark/Iron Man, and Chris Evans, Steve Rogers/Captain America, sustain watch hours and catalog pull, sharpening the MCU's content monetization pipeline and extending long-tail revenue well beyond initial windows, where global distribution value from territories like China amplified reach. Comparative context matters for both narrative ambition and balance sheet health. On one side, leaner sci-drama like Joker channels a compact dystopian thriller energy with lower production spending, spiking near-term profitability metrics. On the other, maxi spectacle like Star Wars, The Rise of Skywalker or Avatar, The Way of Water deploys vast world building for four-quadrant capture. Avengers, Endgame splits the difference, a community-driven gripping narrative with towering high-action sequences, designed for franchise profitability across the MCU. That equilibrium, according to financial modeling based on historical outcomes, supports a robust monetization strategy, aligns with superior revenue benchmarks, and, through synergy between fan emotion and premium exhibition, targets profit maximization without sacrificing heart. It's franchise-level storytelling that invites repeat viewing, enhancing cumulative revenue and reinforcing franchise equity valuation. The legacy of Avengers, Endgame is that its post-apocalyptic storytelling and redemptive survival journey don't merely deliver a satisfying ending, they operationalize a template for cinematic universe expansion that keeps the MCU a must-watch 2025 ecosystem. The film's suspense-driven narrative, layered story structure, and unforgettable scenes function as an engine for content monetization, while its cultural imprint strengthens shareholder value through a steady cadence of ancillary revenue streams. Through this lens, the climactic choices sacrifice, closure, and hope aren't just dramatic flourishes, they're the tensile strength of a cinematic masterpiece whose blockbuster comparison portfolio spans Warner Bros., Disney, and Netflix originals, and whose measured extravagance points to resilient return on investment. Return on investment, expanding global distribution value, and long-horizon franchise profitability that continues echoing across theaters and streams. In Avengers, Endgame from Marvel Studios, the image is the engine of emotion and the engine of business, built on meticulous cinematography, scalable visual effects, performance-anchored CGI, precisely engineered camera setups, and grounded stunt choreography that convert grief into propulsion and closure into myth. Under directors Anthony and Joe Russo, with Trent Opeluk serving as the director of photography, the film's scene composition and expressive lighting design make faces luminous against cataclysm, while disciplined world-building and carefully staged action sequences deliver the kind of blockbuster visuals and cinematic storytelling that keep audiences returning in high-definition visuals on Disney+, IMAX Enhanced, and in 4K on Amazon Prime and Max. The coherent film aesthetics and purposeful production design turn character choices into memorable scenes, reinforcing an MCU standard of cinematic excellence that anchors genuine four-quadrant reach and durable, universe-spanning momentum. The visual language starts as a whisper. Early scenes lean cool and hushed so the cinematography can listen to Robert Downey Jr. and Chris Evans, while the lighting design uses practical warmth to honor silence. As purpose returns, the lens widens and the camera setups expand to welcome converging arcs without losing human scale, and by the final rally the choreography of bodies becomes a symphony where practical stunt choreography braids into scalable CGI. What endures is clarity, each beat is readable because the scene composition privileges intent over noise. That discipline turns portal arrivals, shield stands, and farewells into endlessly replayed memorable scenes, proof that cinematic storytelling and franchise-level storytelling can coexist with spectacular visual effects while preserving cinematic excellence across the entire field of view. Performance sits at the core of the visual effects. Josh Brolin's Thanos breathes where facial capture translates into refined CGI shading and physically plausible light. Smart Hulk works because micro-expressions survive into final composite and the director of photography protects eye light shot to shot. De-aging and aging slip into the narrative as intent, not gimmick, aligning film aesthetics to character journeys. Even at maximal scale, the action sequences avoid soup, layered scene composition holds foreground resolve, midground allyship, and background peril so world building and emotion travel together. That's why the film's blockbuster visuals still trend in breakdowns and behind-the-scenes featurette threads. The work reads as story first, Technique second, the ideal of cinematic storytelling in the event film era. Scale has a ledger, and Endgame writes it in capital letters. Based on public reporting and historical comparisons, the production budget is widely estimated at $350 to $400 million, with VFX cost and CGI expenses representing a dominant share of the technical spine. Effects-heavy tentpoles often carry 2,400 to 3,000 VFX shots per shot. Averages for complex composites frequently model at roughly $70,000 to $125,000, with hero shots higher, placing aggregate post-production spending firmly in the high 8 to low 9 figures. Normalized across 181 minutes, analysts shorthand a finished minute figure of $1.8, $2.2 million for benchmarking production efficiency rather than audited cost. The conversion to audience demand is measurable. Endgame's $2.799 billion worldwide becomes the demand-side validation that underwrites plausible return on investment. Return on investment, and resilient profit margins once premium formats, library tail, and platform prominence inform studio projected earnings. Formats turn artistry into arithmetic. Premium tickets in IMAX/PLF commonly add 20 to 30% price lift versus standard seats, and event titles like Endgame often see opening frame premium attach rates in the 25 to 35% band by exhibitor estimates. That lift expands per ticket revenue and accelerates payback, strengthening cumulative revenue in the peak window and improving global distribution return on investment. Across territories. Trailer moments engineered around signature visual effects. The portal surge, the hammer call, the cavalry drove record-class marketing synergy. Trades reported roughly 289 million views in 24 hours for the first teaser, compressing cost per awareness point and feeding a year-round cycle of content monetization through official clips, platform bumpers, and creator breakdowns. The tool chain is margin defense in practice. Heavy prevas and tech B-aligned departments before set day, on-set VFX supervision, show LUTs, and clean play discipline reduce mismatches. Iterative look dev stabilizes palette as shots scale. Each practice counters schedule risk and tames operating costs, keeping late-stage post-production spending from ballooning while preserving cinematic excellence in the final image. Delivery certainty enables marketing to lock assets around the most arresting CGI beats on schedule, amplifying marketing synergy and smoothing projected earnings curves that leadership tracks against guidance. In investor language, this is workflow as a hedge, a quiet engine of production efficiency that protects the upside case. Design becomes a revenue engine the moment it's iconic. Props, armor silhouettes, and environment signatures born in production design and perfected through CGI translate directly into merchandising tie-ins. Premium statues, replica gear, apparel, and themed experiences. Those visuals also travel as digital licensing assets for motion posters, animated key art, and AR filters that keep the title top of mind with minimal incremental spend. Historically, instantly recognizable film aesthetics correlate with stronger licensing income potential. Even a low single-digit share of lifetime value attributed to art-driven licensing adds meaningful lift to estimated profits, widens cumulative revenue, and opens new high CPM revenue streams tied to brand partnerships and event activations. Territories shape the returns and the presentation multiplies the tail. China contributed roughly $629 million of Endgame's worldwide gross, with lower retention but outsized momentum effects that improved global distribution return on investment. IMAX, which often lands a high single-digit share of global gross for mega events, benefited from Endgame's tall frames, adding a premium layer to projected earnings. On Disney+, the IMAX enhanced master pushes high-definition visuals that improve completion rates and watch time. Algorithms reward clarity, so the title remains prominent in rows and bundles, an ongoing contributor to content monetization and slate-level shareholder value as new cohorts enter the MCU through streaming backdoors. Comparative context clarifies the craft. Against the elemental austerity of desert epics at Warner Bros., the slick chrome of Universal's vehicular spectacles, or the creature-heavy bombast of Paramount's robo-sagas, Endgame chooses legibility, scene composition that respects performance, cinematography that protects eye lines, lighting design that renders skin and metal truthfully. That choice drives repeatability. Well-mapped action sequences and performance-centric visual effects convert into memorable scenes people revisit in 4K, reinforcing franchise-level storytelling and sustaining the mythology with every pause and play, proof that cinematic excellence is a business model as much as a virtue. Risk never vanishes, it is managed. Complex crowd sims, fluid dynamics, and late creative pivots can spike VFX cost and CGI expenses faster than any other line item, and every change echoes down vendor pipelines. But when images become cultural shorthand, the exposure is leverage, audiences evangelize, premium weeks extend, and the streaming tail thickens, supporting healthier profit margins and steadier projected earnings across quarters. In that light, the big levers post-production spending, equipment expenses, and headline production budget function less as sunk cost and more as calculated stakes in a visual identity that keeps paying through clips, concerts, parks, and evergreen highlights. Even the micro tells the macro truth. Dust motes catch a sunbeam as a hero rises, an eye light holds through a tear, the camera rests at a human height while the sky fractures. These are film aesthetics decisions that let composites breathe, and they're why the visual effects read as photography. The director of photography safeguards continuity vendors can trust, the production design supplies surfaces that take light and damage, the camera setups invite choreography that cuts clean, the stunt choreography keeps physics honest so CGI augments rather than replaces. The outcome is a library asset whose look will not date quickly, an input that strengthens franchise revenue potential well beyond the initial moment. All of which explains why Avengers Endgame remains a blueprint for image-led value creation. Purposeful cinematography, resonant visual effects, intentional camera setups, muscular stunt choreography, expressive lighting design, readable scene composition, and iconic production design produce blockbuster visuals and immersive visuals that travel across markets and formats. On the balance sheet, those choices justify significant post-production spending, specialized equipment expenses, and a premium production budget because they return as premium pricing, durable cumulative revenue, diversified digital licensing, high-margin merchandising tie-ins, and compounding content monetization that supports studio-wide shareholder value. That is the Avengers Endgame equation in plain terms: visual grammar as strategy, spectacle as pipeline, and a repeatable path to strong return on investment. Return on investment, attractive estimated profits, and resilient high CPM revenue streams that keep the portals open on the business side long after the credits roll. In Avengers Endgame, the sound becomes memory, and the memory becomes momentum as Alan Silvestri's official soundtrack sculpts a soaring thematic score of destiny and farewell that fans recognize within seconds. The composer builds an architecture of brass and strings around instantly recognizable iconic tracks and long-tail memorable themes, and the album's precision elevates every beat of the story with deliberate music-driven storytelling that critics celebrate as peak cinematic music. The effect is cumulative: when the portals open and harmony rises, audiences feel the saga land with a resonance that powers cross-platform discovery, keeps the film trending on streaming platforms, and converts affection into durable soundtrack acclaim. In a marketplace ruled by attention, Avengers Endgame pairs melody with myth, turning set-piece emotion into a library of soundtrack highlights that play as fan-favorite songs on Spotify and Apple Music and buzz through trailers across Netflix, Disney+, Max, and Amazon Prime, a case study in how chart-topping tracks are born from narrative precision and how a score composer can encode character in sound. The craft is visible in the blueprint. Silvestri's orchestral sessions layer massive brass choirs, responsive strings, and rhythm sections designed to pace breath and heartbeat, while recurring musical motifs map here turn on investment. Sacrifice, and reunion. The Avengers refrain, already a cultural banner, arrives with renewed authority. Cues like portals function as the album's iconic tracks, and the elegiac closure of the real hero seals the arc with hushed dignity. This is thematic score design that prioritizes clarity, the kind of cinematic music that prompts instant recall and triggers soundtrack popularity spikes each time the movie resurfaces in conversation on streaming platforms. When fans clip the crescendos for reaction videos or edit tribute reels, the cues become soundtrack highlights, and the cycle of music-driven storytelling spins on. Community turns the score into a chorus. Marching bands arrange the memorable themes for stadiums, pianists and beatmakers generate viral remixes, and the composer's interviews, stems, and behind-the-board breakdowns feed music licensing buzz while teaching a new generation how leitmotifs bind story. Limited digital releases with alternate takes and extended suites give listeners more terrain to explore, while deluxe vinyl pressings turn the official soundtrack into an object of desire. As audiences rewatch Avengers: Endgame on Disney+, the same crescendos hit again and send listeners back to the album, where soundtrack acclaim and streaming success reinforce the MCU's franchise music potential and keep the chart-topping tracks in algorithmic rotation across streaming platforms. Comparisons underscore the strategy. Against the minimalist dread engines of certain Warner Brothers superhero scores or the ancient future soundscapes of dune-swept epics, Avengers: Endgame opts for melodic certainty that doubles as brand recall. The thematic score here is not only emotion, it is a sonic logo. That approach aligns with storied franchises where iconic tracks call audiences to adventure, and it helps explain the film's persistent soundtrack popularity. Melody scales across cultures, musical motifs travel faster than textural abstraction, and cinematic music with strong memorable themes becomes an invitation to belong. For a saga that hinges on reunion and resolve, the design is exact. Numbers translate art into enterprise, framed as estimates based on historical comparisons and platform behavior. Across DSPs, Avengers: Endgame's album and singles plausibly aggregate in the 500 to 800 million stream range over multiple years, at a blended per-stream payout of roughly $0.003, $0.004, that implies $1.5, $3.2 million in gross digital audio streaming revenue to rights holders before splits, with YouTube video monetization and Content ID adding incremental dollars. Add physical and digital soundtrack sales, a conservative 100,000 units across vinyl, CD, and downloads at a retail range of $12, $25, and retail throughput lands around $1.2, $2.5 million, with wholesale receipts forming a meaningful slice that contributes to steady cumulative earnings. The aggregate picture supports healthy estimated profit margins for the music vertical, given the durability of memorable themes that continue to surface on streaming platforms whenever the film trends. The licensing layer is where emotion turns into annuity. High recognition cues like portals are primed for music licensing in trailers, sports montages, awards packages, and brand activations. Based on industry norms, marquee syncs can command mid-5 to 6-figure fees. A reasonable portfolio, say, a handful of global reach trailers and a slate of regional or event-specific uses, can yield 7 figures in aggregate licensing income over time. Those placements also boost campaign resonance for partners, raising music licensing buzz and strengthening the album's soundtrack acclaim, all while adding diversified revenue streams that support resilient projected return on investment. For the Endgame music asset, artifacts extend affection. Deluxe vinyl with gatefold art, colored pressings, and limited foil editions convert listening into keepsake culture. At $30 to $50 price points, a 50,000 unit aggregate across variants equates to $1.5, $2.5 million in retail, channeled through label stores and specialty retailers. These merchandising tie-ins complement the film's broader product ecosystem and demonstrate clean merchandising synergy between visual iconography and sonic identity. Conductor-approved suites for orchestra, wind ensemble charts, and piano books expand the score's physical footprint into schools and civic halls, where the official soundtrack becomes lived music, building long-tail franchise music value beyond screens and feeds. Live performance is a multiplier with measurable upside. Film in concert tours typically gross mid-6 figures per night in major markets. A 30 to 50 date run yields multi-million gross potential in a calendar year, before expenses. Those events stack revenue from tickets, VIP experiences, and on-site merchandise, then echo back into digital as clips rekindle streaming success. For stakeholders, this circuit exemplifies digital rights monetization in tandem with live culture. Recorded highlights push playlisting, broadcast rights and streaming specials add layers, and the total flywheel lifts profit projections, diversifies revenue streams, and stabilizes cumulative earnings across quarters that are otherwise light on theatrical. Music also reduces go-to-market friction, which shows up directly in campaign math. Editors reach for known iconic tracks and soundtrack highlights to lock trailers and TV spots earlier. Even a 5 to 10% cut in iteration cycles can yield meaningful savings, improving soundtrack marketing return on investment, and indirectly supporting the film's broader P&A efficiency. That production discipline pairs with a scoring workflow optimized for production cost efficiency, clear spotting sessions, fast orchestration pipelines, and pre-established musical motifs so the music department lands deliverables on time and on brand. In investment language, these efficiencies improve estimated profit margins and strengthen projected return on investment, without compromising creative ambition. Platform logic turns melody into momentum. DSP playlists favor recognizable memorable themes, algorithmic surfacing feeds streaming success whenever an MCU title drops or trends on streaming platforms. Curated epic and study lists keep the official soundtrack in public earshot, seasonal moments, graduations, year-end recaps, sports finals renew demand for the same iconic tracks. The result is steady streaming revenue that, when added to physical soundtrack sales, sync fee licensing income, and touring receipts, forms a diversified basket of revenue streams aligned with a franchise-first content monetization strategy. That alignment supports investor insights that the Avengers music brand behaves like a resilient asset with long shelf life. Comparative modeling suggests the melodic edge converts to dollars. Texture-heavy or purely percussive scores can make a statement, but they seldom achieve the universal humility that drives soundtrack popularity in the long tail. Melodic thematic score architecture tends to outperform in digital rights monetization and licensing income because editors, brands, and fans want hooks that telegraph meaning instantly. Benchmarked against peer franchises, Avengers, Endgame's tuneful identity supports stronger estimated profit margins in music, tighter merchandising synergy with apparel and collectibles, and faster recall in marketing sizzles, all of which feed the series' franchise music potential and buttress overall slate shareholder value. Risk exists, but so does redundancy in value. Recording large ensemble orchestral sessions, booking premium rooms, and mixing in surround formats bring real costs, yet a returning composer and enduring musical motifs compress ramp time, temper revision churn, and keep deliverables on schedule. The reward shows up not only in opening window buzz but in long-tail stability, the kind of steady cumulative earnings and predictable profit projections that de-risk the music vertical. Add periodic remasters, Atmos updates, and box set campaigns, and you get a repeatable path to digital rights monetization that refreshes the asset without reinventing it. In sum, Avengers, Endgame's official soundtrack demonstrates how a purpose-built thematic score, a suite of iconic tracks, and culture-wide memorable themes can sustain both story and strategy. As cinematic music, it deepens scenes; as music-driven storytelling, it organizes emotion; as a product, it converts passion into soundtrack sales, scalable streaming revenue, and repeatable licensing income. Layer in merchandising tie-ins, touring, and algorithmic discovery on streaming platforms, and you have a diversified engine with robust projected return on investment, attractive estimated profit margins, and compounding cumulative earnings that strengthen franchise music value over time. That is the measurable lesson for investors. Melody is not just mood, it is content monetization at scale, a reliable architecture for high CPM music monetization, a flywheel for revenue streams, and a durable contributor to shareholder value wherever the Avengers assemble. In Avengers, Endgame from Marvel Studios and Disney, the commercial heartbeat of the movie didn't end at the credits, it pulsed into culture through relentless fan engagement and a tidal wave of official merchandise that turned emotion into artifacts. The film's farewell energy supercharged collectibles, encouraged meticulous cosplay, and ignited social media campaigns that spun into viral trends across weeks and months of conversation. Every moment that landed on screen could be held in hand as franchise collectibles, worn as themed apparel, or displayed as premium action figures, and that physical ecosystem fed a living loop of audience participation. As the community shared fan art, staged TikTok challenges, chased exclusive drops, and met at fan conventions, the movie's pop culture impact kept rising, channeled by community-driven campaigns that amplified viral content and intensified long-tail demand on streaming platforms like Netflix, Disney+, Max, and Amazon Prime, where rewatches fueled additional merchandise hype and discovery. Avengers: Endgame arrived with limited edition releases that framed key characters and symbols as must-have collectibles, while the studio's partners staggered exclusive drops to maintain the drumbeat between theatrical peaks and Disney Plus availability. On launch months, premium action figures and sixth-scale statues transformed portal poses and hero stances into tangible franchise collectibles, and curated themed apparel lines mirrored color palettes and insignias that fans could spot at a glance. The glow of the gauntlet, the patina of the shield, and the silhouettes of armor were translated into official merchandise so recognizably MCU that fans posted unboxings as instant viral content, and those clips cascaded into new social media campaigns that heightened fan engagement. Each push drew in Instagram trends, pose recreations, shelf tours, room makeovers, and retail sites responded with timed banners that urged audience participation, reinforcing merchandise hype with carefully timed limited edition releases. The fandom's theater continued in the real world through cosplay that treated Avengers Endgame like a pilgrimage. At fan conventions, the queue of shields, hammers, and suits became a living gallery of collectibles reborn as craft, while the feed surged with TikTok challenges, transformation cuts, team-up shots, and snap-back moments designed for shareability. Instagram trends centered on color-graded edits and costume progress pics. Digital illustrators launched fan art marathons that locked in aesthetic consistency across timelines. The result was a wave of community-driven campaigns that converted the movie's lines and gestures into repeatable motion, creating a fractal effect of viral content and fan engagement that expanded the circle far beyond opening weekend. Even months later, a single clip could spark a mini rush of official merchandise purchases, and the cycle refreshed each time the movie resurfaced on Disney Plus watch lists, where merchandise hype met renewed interest. Underneath the culture is a ledger, and Avengers Endgame is where passion meets proof. Based on historical comparisons across event franchises, a conservative scenario models first 18-month retail sell-through for Endgame branded and character-led collectibles, action figures, and themed apparel in the range of $0.8, $1.5 billion worldwide, with blended royalty rates on licensing rights commonly running 10 to 15% of wholesale, roughly 5 to 8% of retail, implying potential licensing income in a $40 to $120 million band over that cycle. These are directional estimates, but they fit the pattern of mega tentpoles where merchandising revenue becomes a second box office, feeding slate-level cumulative revenue and strengthening franchise monetization long after the theatrical halo fades. The cadence of limited edition releases and exclusive drops not only enhanced marketing return on investment, it also shaped the merchandising life cycle, smoothing quarterly variance by seeding demand across seasons. The effect expands with promotional tie-ins. Quick service partners, beverage brands, and electronics promos convert hype into shelf presence, while specialty retailers stage exclusive drops that curate premium bundles for collectors. In media terms, the combined campaigns often generate millions in equivalent impressions and high CPM ad placement value, reinforcing awareness with limited paid push. Based on projections and campaign analogs, cross-partner activations can add mid-seven figures in attributable digital campaign revenue through brand pages, landing pages, and affiliate channels, while also lifting projected income for the studio via stronger licensing income and higher attach rates on related official merchandise. For stakeholders, the compounding effect supports attractive profit projections, de-risks quarterly slates, and nourishes shareholder value by converting film enthusiasm into multi-channel content monetization. The merchandising engine thrives on scarcity and rhythm. Staggered limited edition releases, variant suits, battle-worn finishes, celebratory box sets extend the merchandising life cycle, and the studio's DTC storefronts amplify urgency with countdowns and waitlists. In a typical drop, a 2 to 5% conversion rate on a six-figure traffic spike can translate into 6 or 7-figure same-day sell-through, and when the basket includes premium categories like high-end collectibles, the operating profit profile improves materially. Each hit is amplified by social media campaigns that instruct fans to post, prove, tag friends, and join challenges, which cycles into fresh viral trends and compounding fan engagement. Compared with other mega brands, Avengers character density allows more SKUs without cannibalization, broadening revenue diversification across demographics and regions. E-commerce exclusivity pairs with community rituals. Endgame-era fan conventions and store events reserved special runs for on-site buyers, creating programmable tentpoles for merchandise hype. Resale chatter, while not direct studio income, signals unmet demand, serving as a data input for restocks and informing brand expansion decisions in adjacent categories. The studio's analytics teams read those signals and recommend new official merchandise lines that deepen presence in accessories, home decor, and lifestyle-themed apparel, aligning supply with audience participation and ensuring that franchise collectibles feel both curated and alive. Digital dimension matters just as much as shelf space. Character lenses, AR try-ons, and skin bundles in connected experiences translate iconography into digital campaign revenue, with user-generated viral content driving incremental uptake. A short-form search, say, a TikTok challenge around an Ensemble call, can push daily funnels up by double digits, and when paired with a limited DDC code, the revenue lift can be measured within hours. That is the practical face of content monetization via community-driven campaigns. Fans do the storytelling, and the store simply opens the door. The cumulative effect supports higher projected income per title and stabilizes profit projections season to season. Competitively, the Avengers model sits alongside the strongest merch machines. Compared with Creature franchises or Dark Knight reboots, Endgame's Ensemble provides more nodes for collectibles and cosplay without exhausting appetite. Where a single hero film might peak quickly, Avengers sustains through character rotation, enabling rolling exclusive drops and broader franchise collectibles architectures. Based on historical comparisons, this tends to yield superior merchandising revenue per calendar year and a healthier blend of categories across price points, reinforcing investor return and bolstering cumulative revenue in ways that pure box office cannot. Marketing remains a compounding function. Every fan art contest, every duet in TikTok challenges, every post chain in Instagram trends is a free amplifier. Campaign teams measure spike velocity, dwell time, and hashtag adoption, then retarget with dynamic creative that matches emergent aesthetics. That loop lifts marketing return on investment, while promoting high-margin goods and pushing brand expansion into adjacent formats. In pure finance language, this is efficient franchise monetization, low paid spend, high emotional throughput, and visible operating profit improvement as the merchandising life cycle lengthens. Streaming renews the spark. When Avengers Endgame cycles into featured rows on Disney+, continue watching events correlate with many waves of fan engagement, rewatch tweets, fresh viral content, new social media campaigns for scene tributes, and those waves nudge official merchandise cadence upward. Retail partners mirror the spike with homepage tiles and timed restocks, while DDC pushes out micro-exclusive drops keyed to anniversaries and character birthdays. The algorithmic compass keeps pointing to the same destination. Once the story is beloved, audience participation becomes the most reliable driver of projected income, and the blended result is healthier profit projections, cleaner revenue diversification, and sturdier shareholder value for the parent portfolio. All of these channels sit atop defensible licensing rights and a disciplined partner map. Category boundaries minimize overlap, territory splits ensure localized relevance, audit trails protect royalty flows. The business wins when the art is unmistakable, silhouettes that read at a glance, arcs that invite replay, and symbols that feel earned. Avengers Endgame had all of it, and the proof is in the way collectibles and themed apparel keep selling through new cycles of merchandise hype. For investors reading the grid, the translation is clear. High-affinity IP plus orchestrated fan engagement equals compounding merchandising revenue, resilient licensing income, and long-tail content monetization supported by community-driven campaigns that never truly end. That is how a finale becomes a fountain, and how a story about sacrifice turns into a durable engine of projected income, brand-safe promotional tie-ins, and strong investor return, a model of franchise monetization designed to maximize cumulative revenue, protect profit projections, and expand shareholder value across years rather than weeks. In Avengers Endgame from Marvel Studios, the capstone scale makes it the natural yardstick for fans of dystopian thrillers and survival films, while still delivering the ensemble catharsis audiences expect from blockbuster franchises. Directed by Anthony and Joe Russo and headlined by Robert Downey Jr., Chris Evans, Chris Hemsworth, Scarlett Johansson, and Josh Brolin, it sits beside the era's most watched similar hits, becomes a reference for action classics, and anchors rows of related streaming hits on Disney+, Netflix, Max, and Amazon Prime because viewers chase the same rush from comparable cinematic experiences. In listicles of top-performing films, Endgame appears with fan-favorite movies, critical darlings, and award-winning hits, and critics treat it as one of the MCU's genre benchmarks. As a magnet among streaming platform hits, it exemplifies franchise-level movies that shape lasting cinematic trends and repeat as audience favorites, a standard for blockbuster storytelling that invites director-style comparisons and constant cast performance highlights against the field. The direct peer set starts with Avengers, Infinity War, about $2.05 billion worldwide, the first half of the two-film arc, then Spider-Man, No Way Home, roughly $1.916 billion, Sony/Marvel, as the post-Endgame multiverse surge, and DC's Joker, about $1.074 billion, Warner Brothers, as the low-cost character study whose return on investment embarrassed heavier spenders. Each provides a different template for comparable cinematic experiences. No Way Home mirrors Endgame's crowd-pleasing rhythm, proving that nostalgia-driven ensemble payoffs can still read as action classics. Joker proves a leaner path, a psychological descent that resonates with fans of dystopian thrillers, fewer effects, but ferocious staying power on streaming platform hits. The lesson for blockbuster franchises is simple: if you can't buy bigness, buy clarity, and each direction remains a genre's award-winning hits pathway when executed cleanly. Scale comparisons get sharper when Avatar, The Way of Water, about $2.32 billion, 20th Century Studios/Disney, and Star Wars, The Force Awakens, about $2.07 billion, Lucasfilm/Disney, enter the frame. These are top-performing films built on immaculate spectacle and emotional shorthand, proof that Endgame's visual grammar lives in a league with Cameron and Abrams. Where Force Awakens leaned into revival energy, Endgame leaned into farewell energy. Both became audience favorites and critical darlings because the edits protect faces while the canvases explode. Dune, Part 2, about $710+ million, Warner Brothers, adds the auteur counterpoint: sober grandeur, exacting sound, and sand, a modern action classics candidate that thrives as a prestige anchor among related streaming hits. Across this slate, Endgame keeps winning director-style comparisons for clarity-first orchestration and high-confidence pacing. Turn the lens to numbers and Endgame's edge becomes a template for investors comparing comparative revenue across tentpoles. Endgame's approximately $2.799 billion worldwide, about $858 million domestic, and roughly $629 million from China made it a peak in modern event cinema. Trade scorecards modeled net profit in the high 8 to low 9 figures after all costs and participations. Against Joker's $55 to $70 million production outlay and $1.074 billion cum, the DC outlier delivers the best small base return on investment benchmarks, but Endgame remains the premium benchmark for scale-driven projected earnings and franchise halo. Spider-Man, No Way Home, with the production spend widely estimated around the low to mid $200 millions, proved middleweight agility, lower operating expenses than Endgame, enormous cumulative revenue, and stellar profit margins for Sony/Marvel co-venture math. Budget posture is the spine of production cost analysis. Endgame's production range is publicly estimated at $350 to $400 million with high nine-figure global P&A. Infinity War tracked similarly. The Way of Water's cost stack, by most coverage, soared higher with oceanic R&D and capacity bets, and The Force Awakens hovered around the mid-$200 millions. Those stacks frame financial forecasts for premium formats. IMAX/PLF attach can deliver 20 to 30% per ticket lift in early frames, supporting marketing return on investment and faster payback. Across peers, Endgame's aspect ratio strategy and portal iconography unlocked unusually sticky premium demand, an advantage that carried into digital monetization as Disney Plus rolled out IMAX-enhanced masters, boosting completion signals where streaming platform hits fight for attention. The licensing cascade clarifies licensing efficiency and licensing revenue potential. Endgame's iconography: the Gauntlet, the Shield, the Portals powered franchise-wide goods. No Way Home monetized masked nostalgia across brands. Joker sold character heat via apparel and wall art rather than children's aisles, and The Way of Water rode premium collectibles and park synergy. The cumulative effect is revenue diversification. Based on historical comparisons, Endgame-era merchandising and publishing lifted estimated income into meaningful nine-figure ranges at retail, translating to tens of millions in licensing revenue for rights holders and adding ballast to cumulative revenue while the catalog aged into comfort rewatches. Windowing drives monetization strategy and downstream projected earnings. Endgame's pivot to Disney Plus prioritized ecosystem strength over third-party cash, trading a big one-time license for recurring digital monetization and slate lift. No Way Home maximized transactional windows before streaming rotation. Joker's streaming hopscotch fed HBO/Max value. The Force Awakens and its siblings anchored early Disney Plus migration. In each case, the guiding rule is the same: put high awareness titles where they maximize shareholder value for the parent. For Endgame, in-house control meant tighter control of churn, higher total watch time, and better bundle performance, inputs that studio economists map to asset-level profit margins and long-horizon financial forecasts. Operating discipline remains the unseen multiplier in franchise profitability. Endgame's clarity in battle geography reduces revision churn and VFX rework compared with murkier spectacles, that saves cash during post and protects profit margins. Joker's austerity keeps operating expenses low. Dune's craft concentrates dollars where they yield on screen. No Way Home leveraged legacy footage strategy alongside new principal photography. Each approach is a slider for return on investment. Benchmarks. Endgame shows that if you must spend where it converts. Faces held in decisive light, cause and effect spectacle, and meme-ready tableau that doubles as free creative for high-value CPM streams in global campaigns. When analysts build investor projections, they stack these comps across channels. Theatrical rentals modeled around $1.1, $1.2 billion for Endgame create a core from which EST, physical, TV, and platform usage stack, building resilient cumulative revenue arcs. No Way Home and Force Awakens follow similar curves, with different platform endpoints. Joker's curve is spikier but efficient. Layer after layer clips, live-to-picture concerts, awards packages adds long-tail estimated income. The clearest takeaway is that Endgame's balance of scale and sentiment turns scenes into evergreens, the most bankable foundation for franchise profitability because emotion recurs over decades while technology changes. Creative DNA still guides cinematic trends, which feeds financial predictability. Endgame's first act austerity, second act caper logic, and final act symphony make it easy to recommend alongside action classics and modern dystopian thrillers on streaming rails. That discoverability supports platform digital monetization targets and raises the ceiling on projected earnings, since algorithmic surfacing favors titles with high completion and recommendation strength. For Disney, a hero catalog that blooms whenever Endgame trends is compounding shareholder value by definition. For Warner Bros. Or Sony, similar halo effects around Joker or No Way Home support multi-title amortization strategies and better quarterly profit margins. Finally, the human side, those persistent cast performance highlights keeps the comps alive. Robert Downey Jr.'s farewell carries cultural weight that travels. Joaquin Phoenix's Joker sits at the center of character study lists. Tom Holland's sincerity drives cross-demo appeal. Timothée Chalamet and Zendaya make Villeneuve's vision a youth magnet. That's why the same titles dominate streaming platform hits and related streaming hits rows. From an investor's view, this consistent adjacency is tangible comparative revenue advantage, because it turns one door into many. Avengers: Endgame remains the benchmark, a finale that marries blockbuster storytelling with measurable, repeatable outperformance across return on investment. Benchmarks, calibrated production cost analysis, and a durable monetization strategy that keeps projected earnings strong, profit margins healthy, and franchise profitability rising while the MCU continues to define genre benchmarks, set cinematic trends, and hold the line among top-performing films that drive real shareholder value year after year. In Avengers: Endgame, the wave that began in theaters swelled into a living archive of emotion online, where fan culture turned lines and gestures into rituals and the biggest beats into viral scenes that never stopped echoing. The film's pop culture influence was immediate in reviews and then relentless in social media buzz, with packed premieres spawning thunderous audience reactions videos that became official artifacts of experience. The moment Captain America lifted the hammer and the Portal Army arrived generated endless memes and short viral clips that flooded YouTube and TikTok, prompting spontaneous influencer reactions and stitching sessions that tracked the film's outsized cultural impact. For months, Endgame owned trending topics, dominated cinematic discussions, and inspired oceans of fan-driven content, turning its most iconic moments into durable internet trends. When Disney Plus added the IMAX enhanced version, fresh streaming engagement surged, reaffirming the MCU's franchise relevance and pulling new waves of audience participation into the MCU's ever-active fandom activity and year-round community engagement. The vocabulary of grief and victory became the vocabulary of the web, as Avengers Assemble and I Love You 3000 shifted from scenes to signatures. That shift powered more social media buzz, fueled new viral scenes, and pushed influencer reactions into mainstream talk shows, where the movie's pop culture influence bled into fashion, sports entrances, and graduation speeches. TikTok's remix culture minted thousands of viral clips that cut between theater audience reactions and personal tributes, and Instagram's design community flooded feeds with fan-driven content and alternate posters, keeping iconic moments alive through seasonal internet trends. In that climate, Avengers: Endgame stood shoulder to shoulder with Spider-Man, No Way Home's crowd euphoria and Joker's stare dance meme economy, yet it remains singular because its cultural impact was built on collective catharsis and ensemble finish that felt earned. Offline, the costume closets filled and the convention halls surged. The film's fan culture showed up as meticulous armor builds, shield patina tutorials, and cross-team cosplay collabs that stretched from Comic-Con headliners to local meetups, extending community engagement and stimulating new fandom activity. Retail displays and museum exhibits framed props as relics, while fans staged synchronized Assemble chants at charity screenings that went right back to TikTok as viral clips. This loop amplified social media buzz with a sincerity that algorithms like, and the sincerity kept renewing trending topics and cinematic discussions long after the final box office headline. When Endgame retrended on Disney Plus watchlists, that push reignited streaming engagement, inviting fresh audience participation and restitching the web of tributes, deep dives, and explainers. On streaming, Endgame's extended life became a case study in how fan culture converts into watch time gravity. With the IMAX-enhanced presentation, streaming engagement spiked, and that lift placed Avengers: Endgame beside Avatar, The Way of Water and The Force Awakens in the event cinema at home canon. The film's iconic moments reward pausing and replaying, so fan-driven content kept proliferating as creators broke the big beats into micro-lessons, sparking cinematic discussions that pulled in the curious and the nostalgic alike. Compared with Dune, Part 2's austere prestige and Joker's stripped psychological focus, Endgame maintained its franchise relevance by aligning ensemble payoff with emotional clarity, a blend that reliably regenerates social media buzz whenever the MCU makes headlines on Netflix, Disney+, HBO Max, or Amazon Prime. Critically, the conversation stayed warm. The film's reviews often cited its orchestration of closure and its patience with faces in battle, affirming a rare union of scale and heart. That respect stabilized the pop culture influence as not just hype but heritage, a reason the best of lists revisit Endgame and why iconic moments continue to be excerpted in history of the blockbuster essay videos. Every new MCU launch reactivates trending topics, every cast reunion triggers influencer reactions, and every anniversary cues fresh fan-driven content, a dependable cycle of cultural impact where the audience's creativity functions like tributaries feeding the same river. That river also carries money. Endgame's approximately $2.799 billion in worldwide gross, about $858 million domestic and roughly $629 million from China, sets the scale for global box office performance, and those numbers framed early cumulative income estimates for the asset's life cycle. Cultural momentum translated into stronger premium attach in the first weeks and then into durable catalog pull on platform, supporting healthier projected earnings as the title migrated into long-tail windows. When the discourse never cools, marketing teams need fewer points of paid ignition, and that raises marketing return on investment. While softening peaks and troughs across quarters, an outcome that matters to investor return on investment and studio franchise value. The trailer fabric mirrored the phenomenon. The first Endgame teaser reportedly reached roughly 289 million views in 24 hours, a shockwave of social media buzz that showed up later as advertising revenue efficiency. Editors leaned into theater audience reactions as proof, and campaigns leveraged that signal for a lower cost per conversion. In finance language, that's culture delivering high CPM monetization without proportionate spend. As clips crystallized into evergreen viral scenes, the library gained new assets for content monetization, and each drop of branded materials added promotional revenue to the stack. With emotional halo intact, the film's projected earnings curve remained attractive even as new tentpoles arrived. Merch proved the other bank of the river. The gauntlet glow and the shield scar translated into merchandise tie-ins with authentic story authority, and the way those artifacts kept appearing in memes and viral clips maintained sell-through beyond typical post-theatrical fade. That synergy provides a clean example of merchandising synergy feeding revenue diversification, premium collectibles, mass apparel, and print culture all moving in tandem, each signal boosting the others. Licensing partners converted cultural impact into licensing income, and that layered into the broader multi-channel revenue streams where retail, DTC, and digital coexisted with healthier margin profiles. Culture becomes fulfillment when the symbols feel earned, Endgame symbols do. Internationally, the communal energy mattered to international distribution revenue. Shared memes and synchronized premieres multiplied anticipation through subtitled markets, helping territories outside North America contribute meaningfully to the global ledger while fanning ongoing trending topics and cinematic discussions. Platform-wise, the arrival on Disney Plus reclustered the audience into a single, sticky home, where streaming revenue is measured in hours rather than tickets and content monetization is tied to retention. Combination packages playlisting here turn on investment.c arcs, curating the Infinity Saga extended franchise value as an always available journey. Add clip licensing and editorial highlights across broadcast and digital, and you have a persistent digital licensing layer that keeps fresh promotional revenue dripping into the model. Comparatively, Endgame's culture to commerce engine resembles No Way Home's nostalgia stampede and The Dark Knight's decade-long meme ecology, but its ensemble closure fuels a broader pipeline of multi-channel revenue streams. Investors tracking projected earnings across these titles can model a premium for movies that produce shared, filmed audience reactions because those reactions stabilize recommendation loops on platform. That stabilization raises shareholder value by strengthening predictable curves, fewer spikes, longer tails. In practice, that looks like higher completion rates, more seasonal resurfacing, and steadily expanding cumulative income estimates, precisely the traits that make studio asset managers favor emotional finales when balancing slates. The media mix also changed under the film's pressure. Brands pursued co-ops and staged social asks built around memes and viral scenes, confident that the base level of social media buzz would lift their initiatives too. Those partnerships generated promotional revenue and created library material that studios can redeploy when anniversaries roll around. Measured in dashboard terms, culture supplied renewable fuel for advertising revenue efficiency. Measured at the register, it underwrote revenue diversification into categories that benefit from recognizable silhouettes and phrases. When fandom activity keeps the language alive, the economic flywheel keeps spinning. All of it comes back to trust. Avengers, Endgame earned the right to be quoted and relived, and the audience paid that trust forward with endless fan-driven content, still growing internet trends, and honest audience reactions that function as public endorsements. The studio converted that trust into marketing return on investment, structured multi-channel revenue streams, and rising shareholder value through persistent content monetization. The filmmakers delivered iconic moments, the community delivered community engagement, and the market delivered the rest: durable licensing income, resilient streaming revenue, reliable merchandise tie-ins, and strong projected earnings that validate the asset's long horizon. That is the durable lesson of Avengers, Endgame's cultural impact. When the moments belong to everyone, the value belongs to the franchise, and the returns belong to time. In Avengers, Endgame, the celebration of story quickly became a celebration of achievement, with awards, high visibility nominations, and sustained critics' reviews that place the film among the MCU's most widely embraced finales. Trade tallies highlight an Academy nomination for Best Visual Effects, BAFTA recognition for VFX, multiple industry honors across guilds and associations, and a sweep of popular vote wins that codify the movie as one of the year's must-watch films. Aggregators captured the momentum, a Rotten Tomatoes critics average hovering around the mid-90s signaled durable critical acclaim, while an IMDb rating in the mid-8s and a Metacritic score in the high 70s indicated strong audience scores and a comfortably positive consensus in mainstream critics' reviews. Even without the heavy statuette count of peers like Black Panther or Joker, Avengers, Endgame earned expansive cinematic recognition for scale, emotion, and closure, proof that a modern blockbuster can blend fan-favorite scenes with top-rated movies metrics and a flood of social media buzz into long-term franchise acclaim and platform-wide streaming popularity. Within hours of release, the film's biggest beats hammer lift, portal arrival, the final farewell became living artifacts of fan culture, powering trending reviews and echo chamber audience reactions that traveled from YouTube to TikTok. That enthusiasm fed back into critics' reviews, which repeatedly singled out the editing clarity, ensemble grace, and payoff engineering. The result was layered cinematic accolades across critics' circles, fan awards, and platform lists of top-rated movies, with Avengers: Endgame routinely flagged in year-end recaps as a must-watch film with uncommon critical acclaim for a four-quadrant juggernaut. On Disney Plus and Amazon Prime tracking hubs, the title's streaming popularity spiked again with IMAX-enhanced availability. Those returns reinforce the thesis that broad audience reactions and evergreen fan-favorite scenes can sustain cinematic recognition through fresh discoverability cycles and revived social media buzz. Popular vote stages amplified the momentum. Avengers: Endgame captured awards at audience-driven ceremonies, MTV Movie and TV Awards, People's Choice-style programs, and global fan polls, cementing its status as an award-winning entertainment event. Those industry honors reflected what the feeds already knew: the film's critical acclaim was matched by cultural stickiness. While it was not a heavy rotation title on the fall festival screenings calendar, event blockbusters rarely are, it generated premiere week festival highlights energy through wall-to-wall audience reactions, cast cameos in surprise appearances, and cast shout-outs that became news cycles in their own right. Across platforms, the chorus of critics' reviews and trending reviews called out both the spectacle and the performances, with commentators noting moments of near award-winning performances, gravitas inside a machine engineered for scale. Against peer milestones, the recognition profile becomes clearer. Compared with Black Panther, an award-winning hit with historic Oscar wins, and Joker, an award-winning hit with a double-digit Oscar nominations haul and major wins, Avengers: Endgame's trajectory was different: fewer top-tier statues but far broader franchise acclaim, louder social media buzz, and unrivaled audience reactions volume for a finale in modern times. Stack it next to The Dark Knight, a critical darling that reset genre expectations, and the picture sharpens. Endgame ultimately prioritized cumulative cinematic recognition, platform lists, critics' top tens, global trending reviews, and best-seen reels over awards season saturation, and still landed in the canon of top-rated movies and must-watch films for blockbuster closure. That recognition is not just aesthetic, it carries tangible financial signals. In comparable cases, a concentrated phase of awards chatter and sustained critical acclaim can deliver a measurable post-award revenue boost in the 3 to 8% range for home entertainment units and PVOD, based on historical comps, while a visible run of industry honors can nudge streaming monetization by 5 to 10% in watch hours as algorithms resurface the title. For Avengers: Endgame, which already posted approximately $2.799 billion in worldwide box office, those incremental lifts compound substantial cumulative revenue, particularly as the film migrates from peak theatrical to durable catalog. In investor shorthand, recognition anchors upside in projected earnings models and validates higher long-tail assumptions for content monetization across platforms. Recognition also sharpens licensing leverage. When critics' reviews and cinematic accolades keep a title front of mind, partner demand for clip packages, curated reels, and music cue rights rises, supporting incremental licensing income from trailers, retrospectives, and promotional tie-ins. For an icon-dense property like Avengers: Endgame, the combination of award-winning pop culture moments and consistent streaming popularity translates into strong licensing profitability on character image sets and quotes, while connected merchandising tie-ins benefit from fresh social cycles key to new anniversaries. Even modest uplifts, low single-digit percentages in year-over-year turn drive real dollars at scale and show up as diversified multi-channel earnings in the stack. The platform story folds recognition back into economics. Disney Plus gains from renewed social media buzz and streaming popularity whenever trending reviews and audience reactions reignite, an effect visible around anniversaries, MCU premieres, and even cast reunions. That renewed attention translates into digital rights income for curated extras and enhanced formats, lifts marketing return on investment. By lowering the marginal cost of awareness in each promotional cycle, and smooths profit forecasts through predictable spikes. In aggregate, those cycles justify higher internal franchise valuation for the Infinity Saga library, while the steady trickle of high CPM advertising streams tied to official clips and recaps supports an always-on approach to content monetization. Visibility matters to investor expectations. Market watchers routinely fold awards cycles into scenario planning, modeling how nominations and critical acclaim correlate to post-theatrical channels. For tentpoles like Avengers, Endgame, an Academy nomination headline plus wide cinematic recognition across critics groups typically anchors a sticky catalog assumption that boosts projected earnings curves in years 2 and 3. Even a conservative 1 to 2% uplift in annualized catalog value, compounded across a library this large, hardens shareholder value arguments and underpins thesis statements about durable revenue diversification. The upshot: while Endgame's awards shelf skews more toward fan-vote industry honors than prestige season sweeps, the audience-verified critical acclaim and constant streaming popularity deliver similar monetization advantages over time. Comparisons illuminate the uplift tiers. After Oscar wins, Black Panther experienced catalog and merch halos consistent with a robust post-award revenue boost, while Joker's dual Oscar wins spurred additional platform and sell-through surges in the quarters following. Avengers, Endgame, with its singular audience reactions phenomenon, showed an alternative path, less dependent on gold statues, more dependent on collective ritual, and still able to defend strong profit forecasts through emotional attachment. Analysts parsing multi-channel earnings see the connective logic: heavy social proof substitutes for some awards season oxygen, allowing Disney to spend less to be seen more clean marketing return on investment. That protects operating profit while keeping investor return on investment resilient. The review-to-commerce flywheel remained unusually efficient. The first trailer set a near unbeatable day one view record, hundreds of millions of impressions, and critics' first waves of reviews fused with fan-captured audience reactions, giving marketing a trove of organic proof points. Each of those proof points powered high CPM advertising streams on owned channels, strengthened ad-supported video revenue, and generated affordable feedback loops for future assets. In this way, cinematic accolades and trending reviews didn't merely decorate one-sheets, they cut acquisition costs, widened profit margins, and contributed to better-than-baseline profit forecasts across the film's life cycle. Inside the narrative of honors, the movie sustained focus on its performers. Commentators highlighted near-award-winning performances within the ensemble, noting how restraint and resolve are measured out in looks and lines rather than monologues. Those notes echoed across critics' reviews, best of the decade essays, and podcast deep dives that repositioned Endgame as a hybrid of must-watch film spectacle and character-centric drama. Each revisit, each reappraisal, especially those anointed as trending reviews, kept the title present in platform carousels and press recirculation, boosting streaming popularity and gently nudging cumulative revenue models upward as completion rates stayed high. The measurable outcomes close the loop. Using historical comparables, studios often assign a modest but meaningful post-award revenue boost to titles with durable cinematic recognition, even if the trophies skew toward popular vote industry honors. For Avengers, Endgame, those boosts likely manifested as short-window spikes in home entertainment units, elevated streaming monetization during IMAX-enhanced pushes, incremental licensing income from frequently excerpted sequences, and steady merchandising tie-ins demand synchronized to fan holidays. Collectively, these line items support thicker profit forecasts, strengthen franchise valuation, and deliver reliable multi-channel earnings that extend well beyond the theatrical calendar. What endures is how the accolades mirror the audience. Avengers, Endgame remains one of the era's top-rated movies in the hearts of its base because its fan-favorite scenes feel communal, and that communal status is the rare form of cinematic accolades that outlast laurels. The awards narrative: select nominations, wide critical acclaim, abundant industry honors interlocks with the business narrative: repeat-friendly catalog, sticky content monetization, low-friction promotion until each reinforces the other. That is the Endgame blueprint in practical terms: recognition as a vector for projected earnings, culture as collateral for licensing profitability, and conversation as a renewable source of shareholder value. Long after the confetti, the title's cinematic recognition keeps translating into revenue diversification and discrete digital rights income, the kind of compounding return that any investor expectations model would recognize as a franchise's truest award. In Avengers, Endgame, the Marvel Cinematic Universe created a definitive cinematic milestone, one that continues to echo across the film industry, streaming platforms, and pop culture even years after release. For movie lovers, this film functions as more than entertainment: it is a historical event, a hinge point between eras. It represents a unique blend of film legacy, cultural relevance, franchise potential, and ongoing fan anticipation for what comes next. Unlike many latest movies that trend for a few weeks and fade, Avengers: Endgame continues to act as a magnet for movie fans, remaining a constant fixture in discussions around the top-rated releases of modern times. Its cinematic impact has been studied by critics, its audience engagement has been measured by algorithms on Disney Plus and Amazon Prime, and its streaming popularity continues to validate the investment model Marvel Studios pioneered with serialized storytelling over a decade of build-up. From a narrative perspective, Endgame closes one of cinema's longest and most ambitious arcs, yet at the same time seeded a new era of franchise expansions, spin-offs, and sequel potential across film and television. For movie fans invested in the detail, each farewell scene contained the DNA for new projects. Tony Stark's sacrifice became the emotional core fans recalled in subsequent trending movies like Spider-Man: No Way Home, which grossed $1.916 billion worldwide by riding nostalgia and direct narrative links to Endgame. Steve Rogers' retirement as Captain America paved the way for Sam Wilson to inherit the shield in Disney Plus' Falcon and the Winter Soldier, while Loki's alternate timeline escape created the foundation for one of Disney's most successful original series with streaming popularity that drove platform engagement in multiple quarters. For audience engagement metrics, that is continuity working as deliberate content monetization, enabling Marvel to convert the passion of movie lovers into durable subscriptions and cumulative revenue.
Financially, Endgame is unrivaled in pure cumulative revenue terms, earning $2.799 billion at the global box office, including $858 million domestic and roughly $629 million from China. To compare, Avatar: The Way of Water earned $2.32 billion worldwide, emphasizing James Cameron's continuing global dominance, but still trailing Endgame's first-run peak. Avengers: Infinity War, the direct predecessor to Endgame, earned $2.05 billion worldwide with a darker ending, creating the cliffhanger demand that typically produced higher marketing return on investment. Efficiency for Endgame itself. The Dark Knight remains a critical darling, grossing $1.006 billion worldwide, showing how award-winning hits can sustain cultural prestige, though at a smaller scale of cumulative revenue. Meanwhile, Joker, 2019, shows the opposite success story, generating $1.074 billion worldwide off a modest $55 to $70 million budget. Evidence of unmatched return on investment benchmarks, but with much thinner franchise valuation given weaker merchandising revenue and limited spin-off potential. Comparing these titles shows why Endgame is both a top-rated release and the crown jewel of Marvel's financial portfolio. It combines sheer revenue size with lasting franchise ROI and diversified multi-channel revenue. Endgame's franchise potential is most visible in how Marvel built an entire wave of Disney Plus content directly from its arcs. WandaVision, Loki, The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, Hawkeye and What If? All extend from Endgame's outcomes. Each represents franchise expansions that improve Disney Plus' streaming sustainability, provide new revenue diversification, and add digital rights income from exclusive streaming deals. For investors, this is a model of multi-channel revenue creation. Theatrical blockbusters as anchors, with serialized spin-offs monetized through subscription retention and downstream merchandising lifecycle. In pure finance terms, this is what Wall Street describes as strong shareholder value creation, because the synergy stretches across parking Avengers branding in theme parks, premium licensing fees for merchandise, and competitive positioning among streaming platform hits. Compared to Avatar: The Way of Water, which monetizes predominantly through box office and merchandise tie-ins, Endgame demonstrates broader vertical content monetization. From a cultural lens, Endgame's film legacy is strengthened by audience engagement unlike anything else in modern blockbuster history. Theater recordings of audiences cheering at the hammer lift became viral fan theories fodder. Fan anticipation videos racked millions of views online, and to this day, community engagement around those iconic moments keeps the film in discourse. Movie fans posting tributes on TikTok and Instagram treat Endgame not just as a franchise continuity marker, but as a personal memory. Against Spider-Man, No Way Home, Endgame still holds the biggest single weekend records and broader pop culture footprint. It remains a reference whenever trending movies featuring ensemble casts release, or when new franchise-level movies like Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness try to replicate cross-character ensemble impact. For movie lovers, Endgame is shorthand for when cinema becomes community and for latest movie releases marketed to replicate that it is the benchmark. The upcoming cast roles keep the legacy alive. Chris Hemsworth continues in Thor sequels. Jeremy Renner's Clint Barton lives on through Hawkeye series expansions. Elizabeth Olsen's Wanda maximized franchise potential through crossover arcs, and Tom Holland's Spider-Man remains the youngest star, still carrying incredible fan anticipation on Sony's slate. The Russos, the director projects behind Endgame, moved on to ventures like The Gray Man and Extraction sequels with Netflix, creating natural director-style comparisons while showing how once MCU filmmakers bring blockbuster continuity to other streamer landscapes. These career paths illustrate how cinematic impact rewires Hollywood. Cast and directors forever carry the associative capital of Endgame, which drives streaming popularity wherever they appear. Financially, the merchandising lifecycle is still active. Marvel's consumer product sales are estimated at north of $40 billion cumulative since inception, with Endgame's gauntlet, costume shields, and toys driving major spikes. Continuing product runs on anniversaries demonstrate extended merchandising revenue consistent with Disney's franchise return on investment mindset. Each fresh wave of limited edition collectibles reinforces content monetization. By comparison, Joker's commercial footprint was narrowed by tone and rating, limiting licensing income, while Avatar's toys expand rides but reset slower between sequels. Endgame, instead, reflects how revenue diversification ensures annualized flows, maintaining operating profit for the parent company beyond just theater receipts. That is why investors attribute higher franchise valuation to Marvel despite the enormous operating expenses that went into production budgets. For investors and studio executives, Avengers, Endgame showcases how a movie's film legacy can serve as an annuity, evergreen, cumulative revenue influenced not only by box office, but by years of multi-channel revenue streams across streaming, licensing, merchandise, and content synergy. Conservative profit forecasts suggest Marvel content remains one of Disney's safest drivers of projected investor returns, with Endgame still defending its premium position in subscription catalog assessments. Digital rights income from Disney Plus subscriptions may not be linearly reported title by title, but watch time metrics reveal the ongoing stickiness of Endgame, strengthening streaming sustainability, return on investment assumptions. For shareholders, that translates to strong shareholder value justification, because the pop culture footprint guarantees that Endgame resurfaces in every future phase of marketing. Compared head-to-head against other top-rated releases, Endgame's cinematic milestones matter equally to finance as to art. Unlike The Dark Knight, which changed Oscar categories and brought critical acclaim, Endgame changed box office gravity. Unlike Joker, which stunned with high multiples, Endgame defined projected earnings at maximum scale. Unlike Avatar, The Way of Water, which anchored another 3 sequels, Endgame locked its success into franchise continuity while seeding spin-offs. This comparative framework demonstrates to movie lovers and movie fans that Endgame isn't just the biggest MCU film. It's the centerpiece of modern franchise expansions analysis across the entirety of Hollywood. The long view of its film legacy is expansive. Avengers. Endgame will always be referenced in discussions of latest movies breaking theatrical ceilings, cited in SEO lists of top thrillers and trending movies, and recalled as the high bar for blockbuster continuity. Its sequel potential transformed into dozens of franchise expansions. Its audience engagement has entered instructional business school case studies of marketing return on investment. Efficiency and its franchise valuation guaranteed that Disney could leverage revenue diversification across parks, licensing, comics, and streaming synergy. For movie lovers, it is a permanent must-watch. For investors, it remains the defining example of a media asset that used storytelling cohesion to maximize profitability benchmarks, ensure high investor ROI, maintain operating profit, and expand shareholder value far beyond the traditional box office era.
And that wraps up our deep dive into Avengers: Endgame, a film that didn't just break records, but redefined what blockbuster movies and box office hits could mean for both movie lovers and the entire film industry. From emotional iconic movie scenes to unforgettable viral movie moments, this wasn't just another title in the lineup of new movie releases. It was a cultural milestone that now lives among timeless movies, classic movies, and even genre-defining classics that film enthusiasts will be rewatching for decades. Here at Screen Profits, we love exploring how Hollywood hits become fan-favorite movies, how popular movies right now compare with nostalgic films, and how trending movies stack up against old movies, retro movies, and even cult classics on movie ranking lists. It's not just about movie reviews and reactions or movie spoilers discussion. It's about bringing finance and cinema together, breaking down budgets, profits, and the business side of the stories that cinema fans can't stop talking about. So, if you're into upcoming movies, must-watch movies, rewatchable movies, or even deep dives into movie fan theories, movie trivia, and full movie breakdowns where we look at the numbers behind the art, make sure you stick with us.